Just quickly want to thank Jennifer and the team at Bench for offering us a quick spot, discuss a little bit about Expo 2020, the little event around the corner here in Dubai. And it's getting exciting. I think we're closing down off 3 years to go now. Out our back window, you can kind of see the development really emerging from the ground. The team sent some links around just earlier this week from Google Earth, and you can actually see the structures kind of rising out of the desert, which is quite brilliant for us to see. So I'd encourage anyone curious about Expo 2020 not just to go to our website, but to take a quick look at those emerging structures, because it kind of inspires us as we move towards 2020. Now, looking forward is important. I just want us to kind of set the scene very quickly and maybe take a step back. And where I want to draw your attention back to is something around 1885, 1886, a few years ago, and Paris, as they were getting ready to host their World Expo in 1889. And as they were getting ready to host this World Expo, they were thinking about how to create the most grand entrance they could for the 30+ million visitors who eventually did visit 1889 Expo, and they came up with the Eiffel Tower. And whether you think the design competition was fixed or not, or what your knowledge of the history is, the beautiful structure that still is there today is a symbol of just that bold step forward that can be taken during a World Expo. And I'll come back to why I think that's really important in a few minutes. But Expo is really the reason, and I think as we get into this, what are the opportunities with food and beverage at our Expo? I want you to think about why Expo can be a reason for you to come forward, to debut a new concept, to innovate, to try something different, to learn about the market in a unique way at a moment in time where we're welcoming the world. So let's just kind of think about that as we go through the next few pieces we're talking about. When I first joined Expo just, I guess, a year and a half ago, the start of this journey was really all about who would we serve, and understanding who our client would be, understanding what their demands would be, trying to break down how many fine dining occasions we would need versus how many kind of snacking, grab-and-go impulse occasions we would need. You can imagine this is one of these hotly debated areas on our own side, which is what will our visitor really look like? We haven't sold a ticket yet, but we've looked back at previous expos, previous events to understand this really well. And I think for me, one of the most fascinating things that presents itself at this particular event, maybe even versus some of the other major sporting events I've worked on, is just the depth and the variety of the clients we will serve. So it's not just about a major sporting event. It's not just getting everyone into their seat as quickly as possible with a cold drink and a sandwich and they're out to watch a sporting event. It's really an opportunity to serve people who are looking for unique, special, fine dining occasions they've never seen in the world before, all the way down to that family of four looking for value and convenience and quality as they go through their day or many days at Expo. And so that diversity of client hopefully speaks to you as you think about what the opportunity could be at Expo, because it really doesn't matter if you're a niche, specialized fine dining concept that we can draw upon, or if you are a convenience-based grab-and-go type of operator that has a healthy twist or a unique angle to your cuisine. So I'd encourage you to think of the variety of people we get to serve at this type of event with 25 million visitors, a few million less than France in 1889, but still 25 million visitors lends us quite a few opportunities to impress people. And for that 25 million visitors, we really are anticipating just over 50 million meal occasions. And we think about the dwell time, we think about people coming onto the site, we think about how long they'll stay from kind of 10 a.m. into the evening. We get to serve a variety of clients, but also touch them in different ways on their journey. So it's not just them coming for a dinner at a shopping center and then going on about their day. It's actually how do we intercept them throughout this journey that will be Expo across a 4 square kilometer site? And I think it's a multi-day visit. You guys can hopefully prove that when you come visit us in a few years. But really, it's about all those different touch points we'll have. So whether it's, again, the right client, the right interaction, the right setting, all of these things come into play around, hey, how can we get the right innovative concepts at Expo? Now, there are a couple different ways we think we can kind of work with SMEs, and I know that the brief was to kind of focus on SMEs, so I'll try and get my head really around targeting that area of working together with the industry. One of the big challenges for us when Expo won the bid, I should say one of the big opportunities for us, is that we made a commitment to work with SMEs for 20% of the Expo spend in our business, which is a tremendous opportunity for the marketplace, for new entrepreneurs, new businesses, specifically in food and beverage. It's a little bit different when we're talking about construction and some of the mega projects going on around the build of Expo 2020. But when we break that down around food and beverage, it was difficult to kind of say we're going to dedicate 20% of our spend for all the 200 plus restaurants we need through SMEs. How do we kind of make that happen? And so we went to work to try and reshape that a little bit. And what I'm quite excited to talk about is that 20% of our restaurants, our total outlets, will be with SMEs. And that's an important one. I think if you imagine at least 40% of our outlets will be dedicated towards new, unique concepts, entrepreneurs, people who are in the local market or international who think that this could be an opportunity for them to showcase their brand to the world, maybe get some great trade going just naturally, but also build on that brand strategy for the long term. It's an important opportunity for these SMEs. And that's a minimum. So there are more beyond that if you're interested. And there are two different ways that we see this working out. So we see kind of large-scale operators, obviously, in our midst. We see some larger companies wanting to vie for work at Expo, which is encouraging. We're mandating that a lot of these partners actually take on a contingent of SMEs to help shape their future, to shape the restaurants that they offer at Expo, hopefully build some positive relationships along the way, maybe integrate that brand into that larger parent strategy for the long term. And we're also thinking about taking some of these SMEs on ourselves and have directly signing them up, directly managing them, and making sure that they've got the presence and the opportunity that they demand at Expo. So it's not a single-minded approach. We're working with some large players in the market. The aim is to obviously get them thinking about SMEs and new concepts. We will also be working with some new concepts directly. I think that's an important feature of this as well. And so really getting into why would you do this? And I think a lot of conversation we have is not just about, hey, how great is Expo going to be, but actually, why would you want to get involved? And I think if you look at this at a very analog level, and you kind of think, hey, I'm just here to kind of make $1, trade for 6 months, pack up my bags, and go home, that's fine. We believe that there's substantial evidence for us to believe that there's profit behind your operation at Expo. And some of that benchmarking we've done is around things like transaction rates, our footfall numbers, the visitation we expect. But of course, these are all hypotheticals, and it's tough to put your money on the table for that. But if you think about it in a very digital way, you think about the future of your brand, you think about our 70% of visitation coming from international sources, India, China, Russia, Pakistan, Saudi, Oman, UK, USA. You think about 180 countries that will be at Expo and the opportunity it presents to put your brand in front of them, perhaps for a new market, a new investor. I think that the conversation becomes much more interesting when you start thinking about the depth of what Expo has to offer in a complex way rather than just, hey, I want to come there and trade. Now, of course, you need to pay off that investment. Of course, it needs to make sense for you. And that's a conversation we're welcoming. We want to have that conversation because it needs to make sense for you. If we want to lure the best and brightest concepts the market has to offer, and it doesn't make financial sense, I don't think we'll actually get that standard, that quality of restaurant we believe is needed for Expo to look great to the world. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that financially it makes sense, so that it's an attractive investment for you and your time and your company to come be at Expo. But we're asking for some shared ownership of that. So don't expect that Expo is going to foot the bill the entire way. And to just kind of get back to the original point I was making around, hey, what does Expo really mean, and why is it a chance to kind of show something new and be bold, and why I opened with kind of 1889 in Paris. The Eiffel Tower story gives us a little bit of motivation, and I think the effort on our side is to give you the motivation to say, how can Expo be a platform for you? It's a huge canvas. 25 million visitors over a 6-month period. We're estimating just over 2 billion dirhams in trade over that 6 months in food and beverage alone. And the exposure that you can get from this is important. So how can you be bold, and how can, this fly is being bold right now. How can you be bold and try to innovate around Expo? How can you bring in a concept you've been toying with in the back shop that you've not been sure about putting on the table yet, but maybe Expo is a safe way to learn about how that would perform in front of an international audience. Maybe it's a great way to try that out, and if it fails fast and you've burned it out in 6 months, you haven't signed a 5-year lease for it. you can move on from there? How is it a chance to restage a brand that you've been working with? How is it a chance to try some new technology in a place where people are going to be surrounded by new technology and innovation? How can I see if that measures up to maybe some of the international competition that we don't usually get to deal with on the high street? So all of those things can be great opportunities for you that are present only in this kind of micro environment that Expo is. I'll talk a little bit briefly about legacy and then kind of close, but you know, there's a lot of questions about what will Expo be after Expo is done. We wonder that because I become unemployed, so I ask about that all the time. But the beauty of Expo, and I think this particular event, and again, just judging some of the other big ones I've worked on, sustainability is at the heart of what we're doing. The legacy design really is what we are working around. And if I think about the strategic positioning of this in Dubai for the long term, right next to Al Maktoum Airport, near Jafsa, in a corridor towards Abu Dhabi where business is expanding, the Expo site in legacy mode transitions to be this wonderful mixed use and kind of commercial site. A lot of our sponsor partners are already securing office space on this site. So we will pause when it's done, hopefully to take a break. But the transition in this reform into the new what we're calling District 2020 will happen very quickly. And that site will have a number of different opportunities as well, from food and beverage, as I said, a mixed-use residential community, all the different things that presents. So stay tuned for more opportunities that are around District 2020, but that's not to say we can't join these things up. And so if you're thinking about getting into Expo, our RFI has already been out to market. We've got dozens, if not nearly 100 companies who've come back to us interested in food at Expo. But if you are interested about either an event time operation, if you're interested in what the legacy proposition is, if you're interested in both, we want to talk. And we really want to talk to people who are coming up with, again, ideas, concepts, something special, something unique, perhaps something that Dubai's never seen before. We're very interested in that. So of course, if there's any opportunities for us to find those concepts in market, we'll be searching for them, but oftentimes we rely on you to bring them to us. So just in short, we're open for business. We're excited about what the Dubai Dubai Expo food and beverage offer will be. We think it's enormous. We think it's a great canvas for you to try something new. We hope to see you there. If you're not a food and beverage provider, if you're not a concessionaire, we hope you're at least a visitor enjoying some of the 200 restaurants we will have. And of course, we're available. There's obviously our public website, but through that you can access our procurement portal, and that's not just for all the different food and beverage opportunities, but everything that Dubai Expo 2020 has to offer. So again, thank you for your time. Thanks to Jennifer and the team, and we look forward to seeing you in 2020.